Hey guys, how's it going? It's Matt here. Sorry we've been gone for a while with no videos. I'm not even gonna say anything or make any promises, but just let's hope some more videos come out after this, right? But today what we're gonna be doing is talking about 14 tips and just 14 things I wish I would have known when I first started using Logic. This is anywhere from just like tips for using it to just like things that are just functions of Logic that are kind of hard to figure out if you're not gonna like read the instructions. And I felt like half the challenge of learning how to make music was understanding not just how to use the DAW, but like where the tools were. It's one thing to have to learn how to use the tools, but then I had to like find them and all that stuff. So this is kind of what I'm hoping that video will help you with if you've just started using Logic, or even if you've been using Logic for a while, because some of these things I literally found out like a week ago. So yeah, I hope y'all enjoy, and make sure to click that subscribe button and like and comment and all that stuff. But here's 14 tips that I wish I would have known when I started using Logic.
Here we go again. Here they go again. Talking shit about a real man.
Alright, so for the first tip that I want to give, and like, it's not really a tip, it's so much just as something that it took me a while to figure out. It's the file access, and it's where you can access your sounds. So if you want to bring in loops, drum sounds, anything like that, sound effects, you can do it through this, and it's way easier than going the long way. There's always a simple way to do it, usually with Logic. So alright, tip number 2 is basically just the most important commands that I wish I would have known right when I started using Logic. Like the obvious ones, Command C, Command V for copy and paste. But there are some that are like not as obvious, I guess, but like once I figure them out, it's so much easier. And the first thing that is the most important one that I think I figured out, which I literally learned this like 3 weeks ago, is Option drag. You click Option on your keyboard, and then you click on the sample or whatever you're trying to copy over, and you drag it, and you can make a duplicate of whatever your if it's a sample, drum sound, whatever you're trying to copy. The second one is Command R. So say you just want to make one loop come directly after it, Command R, it'll go directly after it. Or the third one is Command D, which is where you duplicate a track. So you can say you have an audio track and you want to make another one, just Command D instead of hitting the plus sign and doing it that way. It's just faster. And then Command T is the last one, and this one is for trimming. This one helps if you're like manually, like if you're just trying to sample something, if you're not going to put it into a sampler and play it out, if you're just trying to chop something really quick. And it works on MIDI regions too. Command T is like, when I learned that one, for some reason it made everything go by a lot quicker. Okay, number 3, this one is the main thing I use for drums. I know a lot of people might use Ultra Beat and they make their whole drum kit, but I guess this is just the way that I do things, and I wish I would have known about the sampler right when I started, because it would have made it a lot easier. But because the drum sounds in Logic are kind of trash if you're making trap beats, to be honest. And honestly, if you're making any, they're kind of just outdated and not that good. The sampler is really good for using for just file access, so you don't have to do it the normal way that I showed in the first tip. You just click on the region, and then there's 2 versions. You can do optimized or original, and I always pick original. To be honest, I'm not too familiar with what optimized does, but all I know is it changes it, and I don't want it to do anything that it changes. I don't really know, so I just put it in as original, and whatever I need to fix with it, I'll do it myself. And then if you're making drill beats or something like that, if I'm on the 808, I'll switch it to the normal sampler, which the normal sampler is a lot better than the quick sampler if you're using 1-shots or 808s, because you have more of a control over if they're like legato, so you can do slides, so it's like a mono sound, so only one note can be played at a time. And that's how I get my 808 slides. But it's good if you have like synth 1-shots and stuff like that, just to make it feel less like just a 1-shot and more of like an actual synth sound. Okay, tip number 4. This one is a really good, it's sort of a transition into the more mixing side of things, and this is the panning and the 3 different options you have with panning. The first one is just the normal left and right, and the normal default one that it goes to is kind of trash. If you take it to the left or right, it just makes it louder on one side and turns it down instead of actually panning the sound, and that's why you have to go to stereo panning. All you have to do is double click stereo, and then you can also use binaural panning, and this is a lot of people use this for like kicks or 808s to send them more in the middle and make them smaller, or if you want a sound to be more, it's like putting it specifically in a spot of a room. But honestly, this kind of does weird stuff for the sound. I don't really use it that much, and I'm, to be honest, not too familiar with it, but that's the panning side of thing. The most important one though is the stereo panning. That's how you get shit to sound good. All right, number 5, the sends, which is how to use the bus. The point of a bus is to get a group of, say, audio files or maybe your drums or something, and you all want them to have a similar reverb or a similar effect on them. You send them to a bus, and then with the volume of the bus, you can change how much of that effect is on. Sometimes I use it if I get a drum sample and it's a little bit too quiet. What I'll do is put it into the, I'll send that sound to a bus, and then I'll turn that bus all the way up so that the sound is as loud as possible, and then I'll just change the volume from the mixer. I honestly don't even know if that's a good practice. I just do it because it's what I've done, and it helps make things sound the way I like them to. So I want to talk about track automation. And track automation is important if you want to do filter sweeps or filter cuts, or like just filter effects or volume cuts like fade outs and things like that. It's really easy. Whenever you're just looking at the main window and you click A, all of the tracks will open up with their individual automation, and then there's a way to create an entire track automation where you can automate the entire track, all of your instruments, all the sounds at once. This is really helpful for, like I said, filter effects, fade outs on the whole track. I really wish I would have known this to start. I didn't learn about this till I didn't really understand automation at all for like the first 2 years of using Logic Pro. So yeah. Is the note automation. So this is the individual automation of the note velocity, and this is helpful because you can literally just draw out in which the dynamics you want your notes to be played in. This helps if you're doing hi-hats or if you're trying to humanize a sound of a piano. And the way to do it is you just open up the MIDI file, click into it, click A, and then you'll see all the automation points for them set up like that. So that one's a really helpful tip. I didn't learn that one till I think 2021. And that one's so helpful. Like, that one's so helpful once you learn it. It's just nice. Number 8 is another MIDI function, and this is really cool. This helps you humanize things, but you go to functions, MIDI transform, and then you go to humanize. And so this will help you make your piano MIDI or your violins or like any sounds, even synths, if you want to sound more human instead of just all the same velocity. And then you can also make them more like humanized by going into the quantization, and you can set it to strum. So say if you have some piano chords, you can make them kind of brum, like kind of strum, so it's like sounds more like realistic. And you can make it strum as much as you want to, as little as you want to, where it's like a quantized flam. It's the Q flam is what it's called. And you can change the duration of it to make it sound more like a strum or more like it's just a natural, like humanize, like playing the chord. But the MIDI transform, humanize, change the velocity, all that stuff. It's really cool. This one I haven't really used as much, and I just learned this one from William, but yeah. Number 9 is the time and pitch machine versus transpose. And so this is mainly things regarding like sampling or like changing pitch of loops when you're making beats. Both of them are helpful for different things. So for example, if you're moving up a couple of semitones or down a couple of semitones, it's easy to just go ahead and use the transpose, mainly because you can adjust it without changing the file permanently. Whereas if you're just trying to change keys, you might as well just use transpose, unless you're making a huge jump more than like I'd say 5 semitones, then it'll kind of sound shitty, and then you might as well just use the time and pitch machine. But if you're gonna do that, make sure and bounce the file out and then change the pitch of it, because if you change the pitch of the original sample you dragged in, you won't be able to switch it back unless you use the time and pitch machine again, and then it'll sound all messed up. And I've had that happen to me before, and it pisses me off so much. So make sure if you use the time and pitch machine to bounce it in place before you use it, because you won't, I don't know how to get it back. I'm pretty sure there's a way, but I don't fucking know. I'm not gonna read the instructions to figure it out. Just to make it easier on yourself, keep the original boom. But if you're trying to change the key of your beat at the end and make it a cool vibe, and you're just going up 1 or 2 semitones or down 1 or 2 semitones, just use transpose. It'll save yourself a headache and like a lot of time. This is honestly my favorite tip in this whole video. This is how to make all your notes in Midi Touch. So say you have an 808 line, and in Logic, you don't want your 808s to be one shot because it'll just play, and then if there's another one before the 808's done, it'll just play over that one, and it sounds all distorted and fucked up. And if it's on a different note, it just sounds all weird. So you have to match the note length for as long as you want. And if you're making your 808s and you want them to go ahead and touch, what you can do, instead of having to go through and drag every single 808 to touch from you like drawing it in or recording it, you highlight them all, shift, hit slash, and you click keep, and then the notes are now legato, they all touch. So now your 808s will all go through and touch and be together, and all the notes will fill in and it'll sound beautiful. You know what I'm saying? So number 11, I'm going to talk about the plugin quality. This isn't really a tip. This is just sort of a understanding that when you're using Logic, the plugins that are there and available for you to use are really good. The compressor, the EQs, there's like 5 different EQs, the delay, the reverbs, they're all really good to start off with and to even still use. Like I still really don't have very many like other plugins. I haven't really bought many. I just use Logic stock plugins. And I'm sure that other ones are good and do things better than Logic. I know for a fact they do. But the plugins that Logic have are really good, so don't really trip over that. Even the VSTs, even the synths and the orchestral sounds, like all those sound pretty good. They are stock, but I think they're probably the best sounds out of all the DAWs. For like the Logic has the best stock sounds, and they're really good. They offer a lot of control, like all the plugins like 𝗙𝗻𝗵 and all the different synth plugins. They're like really good for making your own sounds and stuff like that. So don't really stress when you start making beats on Logic if money's tight or something like that. Don't really stress too much about the plugins because Logic pretty much has you covered once you've already bought the software. For number 12, we're talking about flex pitch. What this does is it can help you smooth out audio files and adjust pitch a little bit. So if someone's singing, or if you have someone rapping and they kind of have a weird blip, you can sometimes just edit that out using flex time and pitch without having to re-record something. So this can save you a lot of time, and it won't really mess up the audio file if you use it sparingly. There's some things you just can't fix with it, but it can help with pitch issues, and it can help sometimes with weird inflections that are made on a recording. Number 13. This is one I really wish I would have known right when I started, and it's bouncing versus exporting. And whenever you want to export your entire track, like when you are editing a video, you click export to export the whole video. But in Logic, whenever you click export, it's only going to export whatever tracks you have highlighted. Instead, you have to click bounce to export all the tracks together. I don't know why this is. I'm sure there's some musical guy could tell me and some reason for what it is for recording, and you could probably Google it and figure it out. I don't know why the fuck it is like that, but it is, and it made me mad for the longest time because I didn't know how to do it till I finally decided to YouTube how do I export my tracks, and it's like, it's not actually export, it's bounce. So that's bouncing. And then finally, number 14, one thing to always do is click save as often as you can, just in case something crashes or something messes up. One thing that I've known is sometimes I fall asleep and then my computer will die, and then when it tries to open Logic again, it'll say saved or auto-saved. Every time, click auto-saved, because I promise you it auto-saved before you fell asleep. But that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching this video. This has been 14 things I wish I would have known when I started using Logic. If you guys have any other tips that you know that I didn't say that you wish you would have known when you started using Logic, put them in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, go check out our other videos. We got a bunch of content on here, and yeah, just let me know overall what videos you're trying to see in the future, and yeah, you know what it is. Deuces. Trying to see my angle. It's a smoke, then I'm cash.